Yeah, we won't want to put on our headphones because we won't be able to hear.
That's right. All right. Oh.
There we go.
All right. Welcome one, welcome all to Roundtable Talk. We have the two Jeffs, California Jeff and Texas Jeff, and
Hello,
Taylor
hello.
and myself. And we're going to try to continue our conversation from last week. I kind of feel like that we kind of left off and still had some stuff to say. So
1 second.
Okay.
Can you guys hear Michael just fine?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You're good.
I was just making sure that they could hear because it's only showing one mic go up and down.
Oh, cool. Well, Taylor, go ahead and kick us off. I mean, on what kind of what we were talking about, and
Yeah. So we last week we went over a ton of stuff because that's when crypto pumped.
yeah,
And we talked about how that actually was almost prophetic because we talked about how that none of this is real policy.
yeah,
So it really doesn't have effect on anything. And so what happened? It pumped for one day
mm-hmm.
and then immediately
retraced
all the way back. And so be careful out there. Right now, I think you pointed it out that institutions are screwing around with people.
They're definitely manipulating the markets. And I'm not the only one saying that. It's pretty much everybody that I talk to in the crypto industry. They're they have plenty of indicators, and that's the great thing about crypto is you can see how the money's moving, you can see who's doing what, and Jeff, Cali Jeff, Crypto Jeff, feel free to jump in, but it's you can see that the way that they're buying crypto is not allowing crypto to pump, and that's by design because they want to stack their bags as much as possible before the price takes off. And so they just keep dumping these markets and liquidating everybody. I mean, there's heat maps you can look at that show where the longs and the shorts are built up. And it's almost like a windshield wiper. Josh over at Discover Crypto talks about it. And you can just see it goes up to those liquidation levels. They liquidate, all the shorts, they liquidate all the longs and just back and forth. And so they're just making money hand over fist and stacking their bags because they know they're all building on this stuff. They're building out DeFi. They're building out tokenization, real world asset tokenization. So, yeah, I mean, if you're getting
on that, Mike,
go ahead.
One thing on that was the Bybit hack. So they were borrowing, or other exchanges were sending them deposits of Ethereum and stuff to help keep them afloat basically. And the amount of money that Bybit made off of the liquidations after, like, not long after that happened, was enough to pay back what they had gotten loaned to them. So it's basically like they took all the people's money that got liquidated and saved their ass. So it's kind of another way they make money, but at your expense. Did we pop off? Did they fall off? Oh,
I don't know. That's weird.
Oh man,
that's not good. Well,
but yeah. So
I don't know. I don't know if they can even hear us. But I was going to comment to you. I saw on Twitter earlier today, just as a context setter, I was surprised by this. Somebody posted. Now, of course, Bitcoin and everything else moves like by the microsecond, it seems like. So this could be well old news. But as of like this afternoon around 1 o'clock, somebody posted
something completely different.
Oh, there we go. Somebody posted that Bitcoin since 2021 has returned as of today about 7.8% annualized. So
since 21?
Since 21. Now, I don't know what part of 21. Maybe it was the peak price point in 21. But I thought that was an interesting, because that's certainly not a return profile you would think about when it comes to Bitcoin.
Yeah, because I think the highest was 69K in 21. And then,
right.
So you said a 7% return?
So 7.8% for the last, I guess, 3 years gets you to like 86, right? Something like that, wherever we are.
Yeah,
where we are today.
It just dumped within the past few hours. So it was at 86 earlier or this morning, and now we're at 81.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but
you're right.
Jeff,
ahead.
you can make 20% in Bitcoin in a month when it goes up and down.
Oh yeah.
So it's like
100%. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just saying it was just an odd. I don't know if you could hear it when you guys were offline, but it was just this. It was a really. It stood out to me as an interesting factoid because in between now and then, there's been tens of thousands of percents made and lost on Bitcoin and certainly on meme coins, right?
Well, I mean, that isn't that kind of how? I mean, you know better than me. I mean, I'm kind of speaking out of ignorance here. I'm more asking than telling. But, finance, Jeff. Isn't that kind of how investing works? Is kind of early adopters or people that buy stocks or crypto or real estate or whatever. Early, they get it at a better price, and then the price goes up, and they sell it to people that adopt later at a higher price.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't tend to. I mean, penny stocks are different, but a stat. So how about this? There's nothing that I know of that has the market cap of Bitcoin, the equivalent market cap of Bitcoin, that has and certainly of any of these other meme coins, that has the volatility of Bitcoin. But volatility is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean,
No.
Volatility is great when it's volatility to the upside and you already own it. And volatility is great if you're looking for an entry point and it's going down. It's just volatility is not so great when you bought it high and it's going low, right? So it depends on your perspective on it.
Well, and one other kind of key point in that it's very difficult for right now if you do not have the patience or the stomach to handle Bitcoin, because like right now, right now I think is actually a good time to start getting in if you're going to get in, because
hell yeah,
because even if it goes down to, let's say, $60,000, it will be above $80,000 because you have too many large institutions. You have the federal government that's planning on doing a strategic reserve into it. You have how many states? I think it's
like 8
states right now that are going to be.
There's a bunch more that are talking about it.
Yeah, and they haven't even started yet. And
yeah, El Salvador that made it basically legal tender, or made it the official currency.
Yeah, and so you have so many people that are getting in. So many large institutions that will stabilize it, because the problem with Bitcoin right now is most crypto, which is it's young retail investors that are trying to make quick bucks, and so they're buying and selling constantly.
Meme coins have entered the chat.
Yeah. But even in Bitcoin, they're doing it. They're buying and selling, and every time things go down, they start selling it, and and so you have this problem is it's creating a lot of volatility in there. But as time goes on, it will become more stable, and Bitcoin will. I mean, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that exists, so
that will ever exist.
So what's going to happen as time goes on? People are going to lose their Bitcoin. You're going to have fewer and fewer of them. It's going to become more scarce. And so it will eventually go up. So right now is a good entry point. Like I've been telling people, when it was up around 100 grand, you're probably not going to be able to stomach what's going to come up, because now that's gone down about more than 20%. In just a few months, most people couldn't stomach, putting 10 grand in and watching $2,000 just vanish.
Well, and that's a great point. And it's why it's so important that you stay unemotional and you dollar cost average, or DCA, that you just almost buy blindly. If you do your own research, you look at the fundamentals like Taylor was just talking about, and you see that there's only 21 million that will ever exist. You have governments, you have large institutions all buying into it as a store of wealth, of a flight to safety, and understand that over the long term, it's going to go up. So if you DCA, if you're buying when it's at 100,000 and you're buying now when it's at 80,000. And then when it's at 90,000, and then, if it goes back down to 80 and goes up to 100, and you're just always, dollar cost averaging in, then it doesn't bother you as much with that volatility.
Yeah, and the first time that you experience it going the other way, you will change your opinion very quickly.
Yes.
When you open up your account and then all of a sudden one day you made what you usually make, some people make in a year in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So those are your experiences going, okay, I could see the utility of this in the long run. But right now, this is the time that if you haven't,
this is where you earn those days.
It's probably going to go down more, but you just go, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot with whatever portion that you're willing to just put aside and say, I'm just going to risk this amount. But these are the moments that you do it, not when everything is working in direction. And we are going into a lot of headwind right now in the economy. A lot of people are pulling money out, so there's probably going to be more downside. But the problem is you'll never know. If you just keep waiting for the bottom, what's going to end up happening is you'll miss it again. So,
quick question on that. Crypto, Jeff, do you buy off the top of your head? No. Like, I know the last cycle, Bitcoin hit like 15 or 16 or something like that. But do you know, and is there any reasonable correlation in the past cycles regarding how much of a retrace, right, from the high to the low? Was it 80%?
Yeah.
Was it 60%? Do we have any kind of information on that?
I don't know exactly, but it usually goes down to previous high, the previous cycle high. And in the case like you said, or a little bit lower, like it went down to 15K, right? And then people thought it was going to be 12K, but it ended up bouncing. So it's usually, previous cycle highs, plus a little bit more, for a nice wick to shake out the last of the weak hands. But yeah, that's why I was.
So what was the previous cycle high? Like 55, 60?
69K.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we at 80 right now?
So, we're at 80. And
yeah, so basically what ends up happening is Texas Jeff is what's called diminishing returns.
Oh, he has a nickname.
Oh, what's his nickname?
Optic Prime.
Optic Prime.
Oh my God!
He has trifocals. They're all conditioned for each one of his eyes.
They're called progressives. But yes,
Progressive Prime. Yeah, that's what we're gonna call Jeff from now on. So
hey, I just want you to know, when I get a brand new prescription, I'm freaking. I can read a dime from space. It just doesn't last that long.
Right? My first nickname for it was Dodecabeam, but
Dodecabeam.
I like Texas Jeff. I feel like I should have like a gun or something.
If you're cool, you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically diminishing returns. So each time that Bitcoin goes through a 4-year cycle from a low to a high, and back to the bear market low, each time it's less and less. It goes back down less and it goes back up less.
Why is the cycle 4 years? Do we know?
Yes, because it's a correlation. Whoever Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever that is, or whoever they are, that came up with Bitcoin and the way that it works is it's the Bitcoin halving. So whenever the Bitcoin halving occurs, the amount of Bitcoin that is mined per block, it gets cut in half, because there's only 21 million that can be, that can ever exist. And I forget how much there is right now, but there's only a portion.
Like 18 million or 19 that have been created. But 4 million have been lost and can never be recovered.
But they still exist though, and they can't be replaced.
They still exist. No.
So you have about 3 million that can left that can basically be minted.
Yeah, and the last mined. Bitcoin mined will be 2140.
Thank you, Jeff.
2140?
2140 will be the last Bitcoin mined.
Well, because
why the hell does it take so long?
Because every 4 years it gets cut in half. The production of it.
All right.
So I mean, like you half $1 and you get 50 cents. You half that, you get 25 cents. You half.
So you're telling me in 2136 they'll mine 2 Bitcoins? Because if the last one's
per day, per day.
Per
whatever
day.
That would be per day, because right now it's like several hundred per day, and then half that and half that every 4 years. And
interesting.
Yeah, it's a long time. So
basically what that does is that drives demand. It's almost like deflation. Less and less is made available. And obviously, as you can see, demand is going up and up. So, demand is rising and, the amount available is, going down.
No, that's inflation. That's it. It's deflation of the supply, but it's inflation of the price.
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, you're right. I'm thinking deflation, like deflationary.
Right on the supply side. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're saying the same thing.
I guess what is that? Circulating supply, right?
Yeah.
Because you have total supply, and then circulating supply would be what's out there available. And then you're going to have people like Michael Saylor or what's his name in Argentina, or El Salvador, that are buying up Bitcoin, which is Argentina. Yeah. So,
El Salvador is the one that made it like legal tender.
El Salvador, yeah. So they're not selling their Bitcoin, or they're not giving it up. Most of these people that's going to take it off the market too. So, it's just going to drive price up once. Now you got Texas that passed their Bitcoin reserve, right?
Yep.
Just this past week.
Makes me want to buy a place in Texas, man.
Yeah. We believe in it here. So, so the other thing that we were talking about last week that was the tariffs and kind of how that they were going to influence. And I mentioned how.
Oh, yeah.
And I mentioned how I put it into ChatGPT, and I said, "Hey, these are all the headwinds that we have in the economy." What? No, it was Grok that I put it into. Grok. And I said, "Well, what would be kind of the catalyst to send the economy like spiraling downwards?" And it said, "Well, a geopolitical issue like tariffs." And so this week we've seen that nice, fun decline in what's going on, and so maybe Finance Jeff can throw us out some of his ideas of what he's been reading.
Well, and real quick, I just want to thank everyone in the chat and apologize. I tried to log onto my laptop so I can see your comments. Unfortunately, we can't be logged into both. So, I mean, I don't know, if Callie, Jeff, if you can, kind of keep an eye on that and see if,
on where? The chats.
Yeah. Bring up any questions that if anybody has any like really good questions for any of us. But go ahead. Sorry, Texas Jeff. I just wanted to chat.
Oh well, I don't. Unfortunately, I've got a backlog of reading. I end up doing some family stuff this weekend, but the main thing I've seen is there's a lot of frustration with. Some people choose to see it as like a brilliant negotiating tactic, and who knows? To be fair, maybe it will be. But there's a whole lot of flip-flopping going on. So the big problem is not right now. The big problem is not the tariffs. The big problem is we don't know if we should believe. The market doesn't know. Well, when tariffs go on, is that just a signal that tariffs are going to go back off? But is that just a signal that tariffs are going to come back on again? Right. So to some degree, I think we're right now. The reason why the financial markets are dumping is it's people are kind of getting out of the way till he and the administration makes a decision and sticks with it, because we don't know, right? I mean, right now we're in a position where, and I think regardless, you could be the greatest Trump fan in the world, you could be his biggest hater, but something we can all agree on is that he, more than any president in modern history that I've certainly been alive to witness, he's not going to be quiet, right? He uses the bullet pulpit in a way that not only does he use it more than any of his predecessors, but he uses it via a new medium, which is True Social and tweeting and all of this, right? So that sort of instantaneous ability without a press conference to just make a decision at 2 a.m. if you want to, you know what I mean? Like, we have a president could decide to get up, take a leak, and change international policy via a tweet. And that's put a lot of people on edge, regardless of how they feel geopolitically about it. They just don't want their assets exposed to it until they know which way the wind's blowing. And unfortunately, nobody knows.
So on that, on one thing about the tariffs that has been kind of interesting is currently what's happening to Canada. So Canada got piled in on today by China. because Canada has been using tariffs as a means to protect their production for a long time now, and now that it's being thrown back into their face, they're not enjoying.
I'm gonna actually look up and see what they are.
So the big things are things like I guess milk and different things like that are really
lumber.
Although I will tell you, like, I don't know about the lumber, but I know the milk, like it's like a 240% tariff, but it's only after the import like 12 million gallons or something. Like in other words, there's a floor of imports that you have to hit before the tariffs kick in.
Yes.
On the milk, on the Canadian side. Now, I don't know how it is on our side, and that still seems kind of crazy, but just point out, it's just not, you sell somebody a gallon of milk and all of a sudden it's, $15 from the United States. It does kick in after a floor.
Yeah. And I was trying to look up, like, why have we as the United States why haven't presidents been more aggressive in trying to prevent this when we don't really use these mechanisms elsewhere? Because it really has affected our economy, even though we don't talk about it. We cannot compete on a lot of things because of tariffs of other countries. And so we have lost a lot of our manufacturing. We have lost a lot of our ability to do certain things. And we really haven't experienced that as a problem until, I would say, COVID hit. And then it became very obvious how dependent our nation was on the rest of the world to provide us products.
Well, even as simple as those, masks.
Yeah.
That China is pretty much the only one that produces those things.
Yeah. One of my biggest, I think a lot of our military budget is a complete fraud, like perpetrated on the American population, because during COVID, I remember watching this hearing with it was some 4-star general was talking to Congress, and he was talking about one of the issues that they had is that the military no longer was receiving certain types of prescription drugs that the military needed. And the congressman asked, well, why aren't you getting it? And he goes, well, they're produced in China. And the congressman was like, wait, you guys get your prescription drugs from China? And he goes, not only were they the prescription drugs, but he started pressing the general and started going through more things, and it was a lot of our equipment.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, we sit here and argue and ask for large budgets because we need to protect ourselves against China when they make all of our military equipment.
Logistically, we're like totally dependent on them.
Yeah. So it's a scam.
Yeah.
It means if we actually ever did go to war with China, they would just steamroll us.
Yeah. They just cut everything off.
Yeah. And we wouldn't be able to do anything. So when they ask for more budget for the defense and they start telling you that you should be scared of China, just realize it's a flat out lie. It's if the military was really concerned about China, they would not be getting their supplies from them.
Yeah, that we wouldn't be dependent on both political and economic adversary.
Yeah, it's a money making scheme, and people are making money off of
the military industrial complex.
Exactly, and so it goes into the thousands of scams that our federal government is involved in taking taxpayer dollars and taking it out of our pockets and giving it to special interest groups to keep themselves elected and putting everything. But this is the problem. We have a country that's now this game is up. We can't continue to do this, and it's being exposed. And as this is being exposed, one of the biggest issues that we're facing is that trust with the populace for the federal government has basically gone to almost zero.
And if you guys want, we can dive into the whole Doge thing. I mean, I know that it's been talked to death, but I think it's important to talk about. I mean, if you want to go that route, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll put it down that the most important thing of any country to survive is that people have to trust each other. When you lose that foundation, things stop working. And right now, it's really a huge problem. I'm running for mayor, as you can see the signs that are behind us again. And I will tell you,
shameless plug.
It is incredibly difficult for me to talk to almost many people because they are constantly assuming that everybody everywhere is up to something in the government. And, I had this conversation this week, and it was an individual, and he's very concerned, and he thinks that in our city, there's a lot of fraud that's going on, and people are taking money and doing different things like that. And he says, well, if I vote for you, you're going to do an investigation into these people. And my response to him was, well, I would look into anything where someone provided some type of evidence to suggest that there is that going on,
or you saw something that was questionable, and you start peeling back some layers.
I would call that, it requires some evidence to that effect.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be absolutely 100%, but he just got so angry that he goes, well, of course it's going on. And
right. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I want to say this quote before I forget it, because it pertains to everything you're saying. I think I saw a clip. I may have already told you this, but for the group, I saw a clip from Andrew Bustamante. He's one of those, he's all over YouTube as like a former CIA spook kind of guy. And of course, some people think he's still in the CIA, some he's not. But he said something that was really interesting, because he talked about how difficult it is for large groups of people to keep a secret. And he said the first thing they teach us when looking for nefarious plans, right? Looking for an enemy operation or an enemy intent is never prescribe or never ascribe. I don't know how to say it, but he's like, never give credit basically to a conspiracy when it makes more sense to give credit to incompetency. So he's saying it's not there's not conspiracies, but there's a hell of a lot more incompetencies. And I think we all know enough people that are kind of moronic to go, you know what? Incompetency seems pretty likely when you think about the entirety of our country.
Yeah,
just a point to throw out there.
Yeah, and it's like the hard part. What's happened is a lot of those conspiracy theories that people threw out, and people and the media and everybody said were conspiracy theories, turned out to be true.
About 90% of them.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating, because when that starts happening, then it's like people believe every conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah,
like there's secret alien overlords controlling everything.
Aliens. The government pretty much came out and said they're true. JFK, the CIA pretty much came out and said that they had a part in it. Not necessarily that they did it, but they had a part in it.
COVID,
not being from a wet market, it was from a lab, and they came out that it was from a lab.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of things like that, and then there's a lot of the fraud, but there are a lot of things that that of course are not conspiracies. They are not,
and of course, flat Earth.
Yeah,
everybody knows the Earth is flat.
Yeah. So, but we have those issues. But you are exactly right, Jeff. And the reality is, while on the federal level, there seems to be a lot more corruption because it's more removed from local people, it's harder to commit a lot of fraud on the state level. One is because most people don't understand how much investigation on the state and federal level there is into local municipalities. Like I just had to provide all of everything that I have purchased, every business that I'm associated with, everything to the state of Texas. So they know everything that I'm involved in. Whereas there really isn't people overlooking, very many institutions that overlook federal government. It's much more difficult.
Well, they look over themselves.
Yeah. So in other words, it ain't happening.
It's a self-licking ice cream cone.
Yeah. So while both are the government, you have to do some reasoning in your head and go, well, there's very few people overlooking congressmen and the president.
Well, they're looking after each other.
Yeah, and
trust me.
Yeah.
What is it with the whole oversight in the USAID? Because they say that, there is an oversight committee that makes sure that these transactions are legitimate, and apparently not, because people are getting away with this money shifting around through NGOs. So, and I understand the incompetency at some level.
There's a general oversight committee, and then there's an actual regulatory body that's
within the department itself. There was supposed to be some people doing the oversight. And,
okay. I'm not sure about that, but I know that there's a committee that's an actual oversight committee, and then I forget what it's called, but there was an actual government entity that is just supposed to be oversight for everything that obviously was not doing their job.
Yeah. So like on the city level in McKinney, like we were talking to the city manager, and before whenever the city gives out money, people have to provide whatever they're going to do, and then they're reimbursed. At the federal level, that's not what's going on. The money is given, and then you guys, run the program, do it. And then what's happening now is when reports are coming back, well, what did they do with the money? How much was actually done? Well, a lot of it is just being abused, and no place has it probably worse than California right now, especially when you look into
like rail system,
the homelessness issue.
Man.
All the scams that I've been reading about that are involved with homelessness programs in California are shocking. And it's really disgusting because, I mean, these are some of the most vulnerable people, and people in California. Californians are, they have a big heart. They want to help people. And
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And it's a really noble thing. But the problem, what's happening is the people that they're voting in are taking advantage of that and then enriching themselves. Like I read one report where they gave $17 million to an organization to build homes, and not one home was built.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
Have you heard of Colin Noir, I believe his name is? He was on Rogan last year, and they talked about this. And Colin actually he's a journalist, does a lot of great work, and he knows people that are involved in some of these nonprofits, in the state, and they get millions and millions of dollars. These people get paid 6-figure salaries, and nothing gets done. And Rogan said, he brought it up to Bill Murray and was like, explaining this to him, that the reason why things don't get done is because they don't want to lose their cushy pay. They say, oh, well, you should be incentivized to make progress. And if you don't make progress, you shouldn't get fucking paid. And that's not what's happening. These people are just, why would I make sure the problem is fixed if I'm not going to get money for it? So
to that end, that's one reason why we're never getting rid of income tax in this country, because the people that fix it make way too much money. All the tax attorneys, all the CPAs, all the accounting firms, all the tax prep firms, right? It's a massive, it's like a $250 billion a year industry or something insane.
They profit off inefficiency, because as much inefficiency as you can, the more you can create, it's almost like financial camouflage or corrupt camouflage, because you can't put your finger on it because there's so much of it. And to answer Taylor's question, over the past 5 fiscal years, California spent $24 billion on the homelessness housing programs, and it's gotten nothing but worse. So the people of California have spent $24 billion in a very honorable pursuit, but the problem has gotten worse. So it's obvious that money is not being used efficiently, and that should infuriate them, because it's honorable to want to help those that need help. However, to blindly just keep throwing money down a hole that is obviously not helping anyone other than those that are running these programs is the definition of insanity.
Well, so here is, I think, though, the magic of the moment we're in. It may put us in a depression first, but this is kind of cool.
I'm already.
So depressed. I think what you were thinking about, what you were mentioning, referencing, Michael. I think at least one of the potential oversight that you might be mentioning is the GAO, which is the Government Accountability Office, which is basically the internal auditor of the government. And I've actually talked about this, Taylor. I've made fun of, not made fun of, but kind of cracked the joke of, can you imagine how frustrated you would be if you were the guy that for the last 20 years has been, kind of head of releasing all these reports, and it was into the void. Nobody cared. And it was sort of like, it might be kind of like how, we just found out the Pentagon failed their their 7th audit in a row or something. But did anybody hold their breath after 6 in a row thinking they were going to pass it? Like, they just considered it's a foregone conclusion. Just like until the Trump Doge thing, again, I think I made it clear on this time. I'm very moderate to maybe barely slightly left. So I'm not a huge fan of Trump, but the credit I will give Trump and Elon is they've made this now. I don't know if it's a movement, but it's a moment where the average person is paying attention and they're pissed off. So I'm looking right now. I just asked Grok of all places. I was talking about the GAO. Literally in 2021, Congressman James Corner references estimates publicly from the GAO that said from 2003 to 2020 there was approximately 21% of Medicaid's federal spending labeled as improper, with the total estimated to be 1.9 trillion over that period of time. So when some of the stuff that the marketing of Elon is great, he comes out and be like, "We found this." It's like, you mean you like just looked at the reports that were already released by our own government, agreeing with you? It's just nobody had the political willpower to do anything, and because the average American, understandably, or even the very interested American, doesn't read government accountability reports, even though they're public information and available. There was no political. There was no. Nobody cared. It was like the boy crying wolf.
Yeah,
So it's a
but
weird situation when we act like this is the first time we've ever looked at shit. This is the first time we've ever looked at shit where something's being done.
yeah, but the reality is Musk is the only person with an audience large enough to get people to see it. The news
That's probably true.
That's who is supposed to be handling this, is reporting on it. Is the point of news organizations and newspapers is make it visible to people to get the outrage out there. Well, they don't do that anymore. They are part of whatever project the Congress wants them to do, or the president, and they're just being used and manipulated to the point where they don't actually report on anything anymore. So what's happening is, now that Musk has a platform, he can get the outrage out there, because the reality is none of us saw this. We're aware that these organizations exist, but none of us are sitting here going, "Oh, well, I knew this report that $1.9 trillion of Medicaid was
the depth of it." What that shady stuff is going on. I've known shady stuff was going on in the government for a long time, but trying to articulate it and be like, well, what exactly is happening? With people, the NGOs. I mean, you see the web that they're uncovering with fractal technology to help trace all the money. And I always said, follow the money. And these corrupt people that are yelling the loudest don't want you seeing where this stuff is going. Why do you think they're yelling? It's not the person that is uncovering it. If it was Joe Biden and he said, "Oh, there's all this fraud, look here," they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we need to get rid of it." But it's just crazy to see when things are being actually done. And I mean, some stuff could be, brought to the attention of the public in a little bit better way. But with Twitter, man, I think that's how they found out about the contract in West Texas, that migrant facility that got billions of dollars or $1 billion. And they said that Homeland Security was tagged in it, and they went and investigated. So X is a good space to just get out.
It's like we're mainlining freaking information and
the fact that Elon is out there on X responding to these people saying, "Hey, we'll look into this contract, we'll look into that." Mm-hmm. You have independent, people helping out. That it might not all be true that they're sharing, but it's good to have that information available.
I want to ask everyone this question, and in the chat, thank you all of you in the chat, IMJ, Matthew, all the people watching. I'm in the chat now, but I want to ask everybody, what is your experience right now, like on social media and, people in your life that, on the topic of what Trump and Elon are doing as far as, finding this fraud, waste, and abuse, exposing it, and trying to eliminate it. It boggles my mind, and I'll go first. It's boggling my mind that some of these things that are being treated as a partisan issue, like the Epstein files. It's like you would think that everyone could agree that a huge list of elite pedophiles being exposed and tried and put in prison would be a good thing. But people are arguing about it, about who's on the list, is it Democrats or Republicans? It doesn't matter.
I could actually report on this because about 2 weeks ago I decided to open a new account and go into TikTok.
Yeah.
But like search and look up left-leaning stuff.
So
it thinks I'm a leftist.
Yeah.
And it was shocking how different of information you get. It is completely completely different in the sense of portraying Trump, portraying Elon, portraying it's almost like, as I watched it, I go, oh, I could completely see how people could see the world this way. And I realized,
you need to make I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, on the same side, because you do those political tests.
Yeah.
I'm pretty close to the middle, but I'm more on the right side.
You're right of center.
Yeah, right of center. But I realized oh, well, a lot of my information is very much leaning on that side.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's both sides, which is scary. Like the one thing I think we should, I think before the last 4 to 6 years, you could have people say, I got people that literally will tell me on that really believe either side. There are people on my Twitter feeds that are so far left or so far right that they think the Epstein list is all Democrats or all Republicans, depending upon which view you want to. And I want to be like,
that's
when is the last time that when you look at any other deviancy or any other, alcoholism, it hits everyone. It hits all demographics. And as a matter of fact, I think that's probably the biggest problem they're going to have, because they're probably looking at this. And let's just say for grins, Trump's not on it, even though there's a whole lot of pictures of him with Epstein. But even if he's not on it, I promise you some Republican donors are that are very powerful people, very rich people, very big people. And in the same time, because let's not forget, Trump had access to this for a year in his first term. Biden had access for 4 years, or somebody in Biden's administration did, because he was sleepy. And now he's had access again. There's probably a reason, and the reason is probably, well, shit, we're not sure if we can pull, because think about it this way, right? If you're shady, evil, crazy motherfucker number one, and you're on the left, and you partied with shady, evil, crazy motherfucker on number two, who's on the right, and you're getting busted for going to an island and messing around with 13-year-old, 14-year-old girls, you don't think you're going to open your mouth and be like, well, here's my selfie with this guy and this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is where I think it crosses party lines, and there's absolutely shit going on behind the scenes to keep this stuff closed up.
Exactly. And it's very interesting watching it, because Pam Bondi, when she got in, was like, we're absolutely going to release the Epstein files, and she still is not releasing them.
Well, she even came out and said that they were going to, when they do release them, they're going to be heavily redacted for national security reasons. Yeah. It's like, then they need to be unredacted. If there's national security implications
about molesting
children, it needs to be exposed. And it's it's the same thing, that Jeff was talking about. It's the same thing with this fraud, waste, and abuse. It's across both parties.
Yeah, the security issue is, if our government is having children molested, then they're the security issue.
Yes.
Not the information you're trying to protect. So they need to release it. They need to let it out and let everybody know who in the government is running programs where children are being abused. And immediately those organizations need to be shut down. And so the reality is, though, it's scary when you have someone like her who was so gung-ho when she got in,
and now all of a sudden
so quickly swayed to one way. I mean, I'm not saying she's a bad person or that there's something going on. There's power over her that's telling her, you cannot do this.
There's some very powerful people that were able to swing that narrative so dramatically.
Yeah,
because you're right. When Trump first got in, it was like, these are coming out, in full disclosure, full transparency, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, they're backpedaling.
And the reality is Republicans, they want to tout Trump, but clearly there's some reason Trump isn't having it released, because at the end of the day, he's the ultimate man that could have it released. And so if he's not pushing it, there's somebody behind the scenes even controlling and manipulating him that's saying, you don't release this information for whatever reason that may be.
And you know what? I'll be the first to say it. Maybe he's on it. I don't know. And I don't care. And that's what I see, people arguing online all the time is, well, Trump's on it. It's like, okay, maybe he is. But are you just going to ignore everyone else that's on it because you just want Trump to be exposed? No, I want everyone. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican. I don't care if they're religious figures. I don't care. I want everyone exposed. I want these cancers cut out of our government and out of these positions of power. I want this fraud, waste, and abuse found. Whoever it touches, so be it. I don't care if they're Democrat. I don't care if they're Republican. I don't care if they're independent. It's a cancer that needs to be removed if we're going to save the country.
Well, to defend that kind of behavior too, what are you saying? You don't want, just because it's your party or you think that it might be the majority or whatever the case may be, it's just a conspiracy theory. Well, it's large enough that we've actually caught people doing this behavior, and they're tied to people who are very high in government, politics, celebrities. These are people of massive influence, and you're just going to allow this behavior, whether or not everyone's doing it.
Well, I think
there are people doing it. So who is that?
Right, and I think the thing that if I had to be guess separate from who's on the list, like why would it? What's the national security thing? The thing that I don't know that our government could survive, or I don't know how the scandal would work, is if it came out, it's like, oh yeah, for years, the Mossad and the CIA and some other people were funding and supplying both children and money to Jeffrey Epstein so he could be a party boy, so he could get compromat, right? Yep. Blackmail material on important people around the globe. Because it wasn't just Americans that visited Epstein Island.
Jeff using those big words like compromat.
Yeah, but it is what it is, right? And so if who wants to have the calculus of like, well, what's a few runaways getting abused on an island if we get the assistant secretary of defense or whatever that person is in China, and he now has to give us like their codes? You see what I'm saying? It's one of those things almost, and it's like, and I think the average American is going to be like, well, we still don't think, we think it's a bridge too far, figure out another way. So if they've already done it, they can't unring the bell. They're just trying to. I expect them to release alien proof before they release the Epstein files, unredacted.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's far more a likelihood of what's going to happen is, that information. If they call it sexual blackmail. I mean, the sexual blackmail arguments have been going back for decades. And the ultimate sexual blackmail that you can get is sexual assault of a minor on video. And so who they've been doing that to and getting it on, I think we all can agree we know it happened. And if the files are being released, it means that there's people in our government currently that would be exposed for this. So,
well, if they're using the term national security.
Yeah, and if it's national security that implicates that it was some government institution that was orchestrating it.
Yeah,
and so I think we can all kind of get to the point of we can piece together the story,
or at the very minimum, looking the other way for the information they were getting.
Yeah. I mean,
right, like we see it on Netflix all the time, right? It's like, oh, here's the mid-level drug dealer, but he gets out of jail free card because really he's an informant for the FBI.
Yeah,
right. It's that thing. Anyway,
so it's unfortunate that our country has gotten to that point that we have have gone down that road so far, but at the end of the day, it'll come to an end someday. And so when that does, what's going to end up happening if they don't come out and be honest with things? It's just going to be a slow death of the country.
Yeah.
Because people are just going to fall into the camp of, the only people I know left that still believe that the federal government is this, beacon of light in the world are people, over 70. And that's probably because they grew up in an era where the country was like that.
Yeah, you trusted the government.
Yeah, well, you trusted it, but they came out of World War II when we had done the great deed of saving the world from evil empires. But now the reality is our generation has lived through so many sketchy things that we're at the point where we just don't believe you anymore. So if you look at like demographics of who believes what, and of course, young people are naive, and so they're more likely to trust, or the government and different things like that, or and you have the elderly, which grew up in an era where the government was a lot more transparent and a lot more honest. For us, in Generation X or older millennials, we are there.
Well, and let's kind of tie these two conversations together. This uncertainty about government and lack of transparency, potential fraud, waste, and abuse. All these things. How do each of you feel that's affecting the markets? Anyone?
Optic Prime.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I'm thinking. I mean, because I think like what we talked about before is we all just kind of assume the fraud, waste, and abuse is there, and I think for a lot of us, we're like, well, that's just sort of the price you pay, right? It's sort of like if you were in a rough area of town, you had to pay protection if you want to keep your store open. I think they just kind of thought it was the price of doing business. And now, I think the bigger concern I have just as an advisor, I mean, I'm getting most of my clients, if they have short to intermediate term needs at all, I'm absolutely positioning my clients more conservative. This could be a head fake. The market might have 20% higher. Who knows? I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think.
Yeah. What are you telling your clients right now?
We're having serious conversation. Well, my specialty is areas where you basically can hedge, right? So index annuities, structured products, actual hedge funds, strategies where there's some kind of mitigation or elimination of the downside. And then in turn, you usually are giving up some of the upside. But I mean, for example, last year I had a strategy that went up 19%. The market went up higher than that, but it went up 19%, but it had zero risk of principal. So that's a pretty good option in my book. But my point simply being, though, that the fraud, waste, and abuse thing, I do think people feel like, I think right now most people think there's a whole lot more smoke than fire. Not that there's not the massive fire of fraud, waste, and abuse, but like, for example, on Elon's own website 2 weeks ago, I looked, it was like, oh, we found 65 billion, but then you like back it out. They've only actually put the evidence up for 15 billion. And at the time, half of that was a contract that they said was worth 8 billion when it's really only worth 8 million. Right. So they're moving so quickly. I think there's a lot of emotional momentum, but I'm not sure how much actual momentum they're getting. I think it's going to take longer than they thought. But that being said, the threat of Elon and Doge is causing significant layoffs, and other people are. So I think we might be in people don't realize this. The largest employer in the United States is the federal government.
Yeah.
So if we start, for example, the threat of we're going to get rid of Department of Education. Cool. Maybe that's a good idea conceptually, long term. Short term, everybody from the person that runs it to the person that cleans it pays their bills with that money, and then they won't be able to. That's a problem. You can't lay off hundreds of thousands of people a month, which is sort of the trajectory we're leaning towards here. Great for efficiency, long-term cost-wise, terrible short-term for the economy, because those people aren't going to go out to eat, and they're not going to make their rent on time, and they're not going to go buy new cars, and they're not going to go on vacation, right? And they're not going to buy their kids clothes.
I almost wonder if they need like institute like a short-term severance or something, to where, it gives it, it weans them off the government teat, because you're right. Laying off hundreds of thousands of people, it doesn't benefit anyone. Long term it will, but short term, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage.
But the reality is we don't really have very much choice. We don't have very much time left. Like when you look at the federal debt, I mean, because it's like the military is untouchable, which is the most logical place to start cutting. And so what they're trying to do right now is cut basically by going around Congress, because Congress won't do anything. It's pretty clear, because Ray Dalio said it probably the best on Tucker's program, was we're at civil war right now. It's just not violence. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party have decided that they're at full war, and they're not working together at all. And the only thing that ever gets anything done is when it hurts their portfolios.
Yeah,
that's it. And then you get them to show up and they'll vote on things. So right now in the whole system that we have going is the federal government is propping up the whole economy. Like right now in the housing market, the Wall Street Journal came out with a report saying, hey, COVID relief that was provided is paying for about 1 million homes that should be reported as defaults, but they're not being reported as defaults because the banks don't have to, because the federal government is making the payments for these people, which would send our default rate, I think it would go up to like 14%, which in 2009 or 2008, the highest we ever got to was 9.7%.
So now, I will comment, I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as Taylor just said, for this one reason, only because I think a good percentage of those people are like, well, until the government gravy train stops, why would I pay my mortgage? So I think a decent percentage of people can afford to pay their mortgage. They're just riding it, right?
Yeah.
It's the people that can't, though. The defaults will absolutely triple, for sure.
Yeah, because we have a lot of those people that come through our title company, and then they're shocked to find out how much they owe, because they don't realize that they're tacking in on the back end on their mortgage, those payments.
Yep.
So not only are they tacking in on those payments, but they're adding the interest too. So their interest is skyrocketing because they're not paying down on their mortgage at all for a year, usually what they're doing. And so what's going to end up happening when we have this housing bubble burst, those houses of values are going to come down.
That's going to be ugly.
And then these payments are going to stop, and then they're probably going to lose their jobs because the economy is going to be turning and AI will take a lot of them. So everybody's going to be going to sell their homes, and then they're going to find out, they're going to think, oh, I have a little bit of equity because I bought this house, 4 or 5 years ago. So I have a little bit of equity here. And then they're going to find out, not only do you not have any equity, you're way underwater. And so the taxpayers will end up holding the bill, because what's going to happen from there is we are a second lien. The first lien goes to the bank. I always love it with everything in this world that involves you, the federal government gets superior lien. But if it's the banks, they always get first lien position, even against the federal government. And it shows you who really runs this country. So the taxpayers are going to get shafted again, and we're going to have significant losses from this program. So the reality of what's going on is it's going to snowball if it does go down that pipeline right there. And it's really going to be a disaster. And it could be way worse than 2008 in the housing market if all that comes to a head at once. Federal government, the unemployment happening there, AI, 40% of all white collar jobs are going to become obsolete because of AI. And then you have this housing bubble exploding at the same time. That is a disaster on any scale. So what is the federal government going to do? Bailouts. It's going to be massive bailouts again. And then we have to ask ourselves, how many bailouts are we going to do? Like
how many can we do?
Exactly. Well, we could do it until you can't pay the interest on the loans,
or people stop buying our debt.
And people stop working because you inflate your currency so much. Because if you do another massive bailout, it's going to inflate the currency again. And it's going to make it harder and harder for workers to get by. And it's going to make it harder and harder for seniors trying to live off Social Security. And so eventually that system breaks. And when it breaks, it's a disaster. And we already are in the middle of our current inflation disaster. Increase that much more, and you break the whole system. All right, how negative can we go today? Welcome to Taylor's show, where he will ruin your life.
Yeah. He's gonna depress the shit out of you. No, but I mean, and this, brings up, just kind of the natural progression of, our discussions. But I mean, it really brings up, kind of emergency preparedness and, being self-sovereign and, having the means to keep, a warm, dry roof over your head and food on the table. It's a lot of people used to, back to the tinfoil hat and conspiracy theory, topic. A lot of people used to make fun of homesteaders and things like that, they were just kooks that, wanted to live outside the system, and, they were anti-government and all this stuff. And, and in a lot of cases that was the truth. But, on the opposite side of the coin is you have those people that aren't reliant on, supply, logistics and, different, aspects of society. They have water, they have food, they have shelter, they have all the necessities. Power can go out for those people and they're fine. Their water still works. They have generators, and, some have hydro. I know I'm working on a hydroelectric plant, and, there's some pretty innovative people out there to where, like, their life would not change at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's something to think about. We're talking about, a lot of what seems like doom and gloom, but even the other day, here in Texas, we had a tornado that came through. There's hurricanes, there's, natural disasters, there's fires in LA. Having a little something to, ensure that you and your family can survive for, a week or two, without being able to go to the grocery store is not a bad idea.
No, for sure. Hey, gentlemen, I'm gonna have to bounce, because dinner's waiting for 20 minutes, and I've been traveling, so I just got home. But you guys should look at what's going on between IMJ and DCA and Prey on the channel, on the chat, and then get them on here, because this is good stuff right here. So I'm gonna leave y'all with that.
That's kind of what I was thinking. So, yeah, I mean, DCA and Prey, I respect your point of view. There's this is what's going on in the chat is, DCA and Prey, like whoever it is, I think it's a guy, have many conversations and discover crypto and stuff. And, it seems to be a very, very level-headed, respectful, has their opinion and stuff like that. Never, gets into, the name calling and just, where, degrades into, just, that kind of stupid talk. Has a lot of good points, and, maybe sometime we, should have you on so that, we can hear what you have to say. Cause I'm all about hearing, different points of view. I hate being in an echo chamber, or a silo. Obviously, you have some opinions where, you feel that, Doge and what they're doing is, violating some sort of, law, or, data, having access to data and, things like that. I mean,
let's bring up that as a good point. Yeah. Like, okay, so the way the system is supposed
Taylor's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So.
The way he is correct. The way the system is supposed to work is Congress is the one that should be doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, absolutely, you are absolutely 100% correct that we shouldn't have. Doge is supposed to be an organization that goes in and goes, here's the fraud that's happening.
Now take that information, do what you will.
Now, Congress, you need to go fix it. And it seems like what's happening is, well, it doesn't just seem that way, is Elon has this power where he's turning around to Trump and saying, fire all these people, stop all these programs. Well, Congress authorized those programs. So what do you do in this kind of a situation where Congress clearly has been financially benefiting, and so they have no incentive? And this is the one thing I want to get across with that I don't like what's coming out of Doge right now is you're hearing all of the Democrat things. They went after U.S. aid for a reason.
Yes.
That's where the Democrat fraud is at. There's Republican fraud too.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the part they didn't go into, but just Trump and Elon, they're smart enough to know you can't alienate everybody, and so you're having what's ended up happening right now is the Democrats look like the boogeymen, the bad guys. Well, yeah, we went off of their programs. Start getting into the defense industry and the fraud that goes on there, and see how many Republicans are owning companies or engaged in different things.
It's all of them.
Yeah, and so they're all bought for and paid for. The reason that fraud is never investigated and nothing ever happens is because it's a money making scheme for them.
They're basically laundering tax dollars.
Yeah, and if you watched Elon's podcast with Joe Rogan, he flat out said that there's things he's not talking about that he knows that are going on because he's scared for his life if he revealed them. So it isn't the fact that, we have this one thing. So I want people to understand it's like you're getting one piece of the slide. If you're on the right and you're like, this is so wonderful and great, and look at all the fraud the Democrats are doing, there's Republican fraud out there too.
Absolutely.
And what do you do? Like, the right way for this to be handled is through Congress, but we have this problem. Like, it really, ultimately, it falls back to us as the voters. If we keep voting in these two parties, this is what we're going to get.
Yeah.
You got to realize, like, every year when they get you riled up, every 2 years,
it's the left wing and the right wing of the same corrupt bird.
Exactly. They literally are peas about, like, you can watch these. I mean, they get on and they talk shit about each other on TV, and then like they'll walk off the TV and they'll be high-fiving each other and acting all great, and you're just like, they put on a show for us. They have no intent of actually solving these problems, actually fixing this country.
Well, as long as we're divided, they can keep doing what they're doing. As long as we're on social media arguing with each other and going at each other, using their talking points that they're feeding. The left likes to use emotion. The right likes to use things like patriotism and things like that. They each have their shtick.
Yeah.
But as long as they can have us going at each other, it's a divide and conquer. I mean, read Sun Tzu. Read any tactics. Psychological warfare. Any of that. If you can divide, I mean, the Nazis did it in Nazi Germany, with the Jews, they made them out to be vermin and rats and, subhuman and
humanize them.
Yeah. Dehumanize them, just like, kind of what's being done right now between Democrats and Republicans, left and right, conservative, liberal.
Yeah. And if you're out there, I wouldn't be mad at Elon. Elon is a businessman and he's treating the government like a business and just saying, just go in and let's fix the problem.
Same thing he did with Twitter.
Yeah, it's the reality of the point is he's trying to do what ultimately would save this country.
It needs to be done.
But people who are complaining about it, the reality is he doesn't have the authority. He doesn't have the authority to do this. Congress does, but Congress will not do it because they benefit from it. So the choice that we're really left with right now is hopefully Elon can stir up enough, because really he's not getting very much done right now, even though people think he is, because it's all tied up in courts and they're going to tie it up there. If someone doesn't fix it, if our politicians don't start working together, game's over.
The house of cards is going to fall.
Yeah. And and when that whole thing falls apart, people are going to realize what a great thing we had that we lost because we didn't put the right people in power to actually solve the problems,
to protect it. Yeah.
And this is a normal process of every society. Societies always get to this point and they usually falter. But
learn history. If you want to be able to read the future or see the future, learn history.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire.
So DCA Price said the reason why he knows Doge is a sham is because if they really wanted to target savings in the government, they would attack the DoD, government contracts. So I know what you're coming at, but the reason why they didn't go after it first saying, oh, this is the first thing. They didn't target it. It was something that what Elon asked some questions or to work with them on access to check their records and shit. Well, they had so much pushback. They didn't want anybody having access that he was like, okay, we need to really investigate this, and went after them first. So it wasn't like, oh, we're going to target DEI or USAID first. It was, something's weird here, that we're just asking some questions and you're having so much pushback that we need to really look into this. And that's when, and also you have Mike Benz, who has been doing investigative journalism on this, who was a State Department employee for years. And he's been sounding the alarm on this for quite a while now. So it's not just, Elon comes in and says, oh, USAID is all this fraud. Mike Benz has been putting the alarm out on this well before Elon was involved.
And Ron and Rand Paul, I mean, they're famous for their filibusters. I believe it's on New Year's of every year. They sit up there and they talk about just all the ridiculous stuff the government's spending money on, and they've been doing it for decades. His dad has, and then he's kind of picked up the torch. But I mean, and the DOD, I mean, they haven't passed an audit in like 7 years.
They're next, right? Pete Hegseth's let's go, man.
I mean, like I said, I was in the military, and the use it or lose it policy would save huge amounts of money if they just got rid of that.
Yeah, but it's DJ. That's who's in the chat.
DJ?
Who's the guy that's saying this?
Oh, DCA.
DCA. Okay, so like you're exactly right. The problem is they're not coming out with the DOD and the other departments, because the reality is, look at the backlash that they're getting from the left by disclosing to the world the fraud that's on the left. Well, there's a fraud on the right too.
Yeah, and
if they disclose that, then they lose Congress.
They lose any support,
and they can't get anything done. And they'll I guess it was was it earlier today or yesterday? Basically, Trump's cabinet was wanting Elon kicked out because he's looking into too many things.
Yeah.
And so that's usually a sign that he's finding out more things, and things that affect them. And so they don't want that stuff to get out. But it's rotten all the way through. It's not one party, it's all of them. And and it's sad to watch, because it's like, if you think that one, it's
if you think if anyone thinks it's just one side, you are so brainwashed or blind in your politics to believe that. You really need to examine yourself.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3 times on the Republican side.
It could be. And what I'm hoping happens is that they gut all of the things that the Democrats are doing, and then they'll gain support from the Democrats when they say, okay, now we're going to do this stuff, and expose the corruption on the right. And the Democrats will be like, yes, okay, let's do this because you did it to us. Now we're going to, we want to expose them.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, like, strategy wise, that's kind of what I'm hoping happens. Cause like Taylor said, we're at a crux, we're at a pivot point that if we don't start cutting spending, all of this stuff that, left and right, we want to help the homeless, homeless vets, homeless people. We want to help the elderly, the people that are losing their homes due to, the property taxes. We want to help, we want to help the student loan repayment, all these things, anyone with any heart wants to help. The difference is the ability to help. And we do not have the ability to help anymore. We're too far in debt.
Yeah. And the other last thing,
we have to cut.
I mean, the reality, the only way you really solve this problem, you start prosecuting people. When people have fear of going to jail, and if I was sitting in Trump's shoes, you can't just go after one side. I would go after the people that are engaged in the most egregious acts, one Republican, one Democrat, or maybe, and you prosecute both of them at the same time, and you show that you're fair and equal in this, and you scare and you terrify Congress into getting back and sitting down and going, okay, we'll get rid of this. And you you have to just you have to get to that next level of aggressiveness, which is this: you guys are committing crimes, and we can't, you can't just be like one side is doing it. You got to go after both sides, because if you just do it on one side, they're going to say, "Oh, he's using his political power
going against political opponents."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
fascist.
And and the moment America sees that you're fair on both sides, you'll get the support from everybody going, okay, he isn't just going after Democrats, he's going after Republicans too. And they're both being equally charged. And I feel bad for the first, it won't be senators, it'll be House members.
Epstein list would be a great way to do that. Because if you just released it and it wasn't like, hey, here's some names, if you just full transparency released it and let the cards fall where they may, I think that would be a huge Elon Trump, if you hear this, it would be such. I honestly, I can't think of a better thing that could potentially galvanize the left and the right.
Yeah, you want to bring people together, start prosecuting people equally.
Yeah,
and people will go, all right, I'm on board with this, because I feel for Democrats, because it looks like the left is this evil organization that's doing all these evil things, and it's like it's on both sides. Fraud does not exist. Corruption does not exist on one side. If you look right now, like who's making the most money off of insider trading information, yeah, it was Nancy Pelosi for a long time, but it's now shift to certain Republican. Congressman.
Yeah, I mean,
you look at what's his name? Oh, eye patch.
One-eyed Willie. Yeah, One-eyed Willie.
One-eyed Willie.
Yeah, no, dude, he's such a disappointment. I when he first got elected, I was like, that'd be great to see him as like, a president someday, because I was just thinking Navy SEAL, that he would be an honorable
service member, and
he's been such a disappointment.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, let's be honest, guys. Let's go out there, and hopefully we're at this turning point that something will get done, because I promise you, if nothing gets done this time,
we're done.
It's over. It's game over.
Or it's going to get real painful.
Yeah.
Well, how do we even bring the other side together? Because they won't even come to the table with anything. You look at his speech last week, and they couldn't even fucking stand for people that have been killed, kid with cancer. Like you can't even support something, you can't even show empathy for your fellow human beings just because they're on their Trump supports them or whatever the fucking case may be. Like, how we're at such a division, and like, how do we even talk to them?
One of the biggest problems is I don't think it'll happen under Trump, because the problem with Trump is the shit talking. At the end of the day,
as entertaining as it is,
yeah, if you're on the right, you love it, it's fun. But
I just like it when anybody talks shit. Yeah. It's just the military in me.
But I mean, if we had a Democrat that behaved this way, Republicans would be doing the same thing.
Oh, I mean, we do, not a president, but I mean, look at a lot of the Democrat politicians, the way that they.
Yeah, but there's
like Elizabeth Warren,
but she's
one of the worst.
Yeah, but there's no one strategic as Trump is.
No, absolutely.
Like he is a bully of bullies. Like he can bully people, and like, and like one of the issues with Trump.
Pocahontas.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny, but at the same time, it's like if it was being done by someone on the left. Can you imagine someone on the left getting up and just, saying things about people on the right like that? The right would be upset. And the reality is like the only way you solve these problems is when everybody understands that all a nation is. It is an agreement among all of us to work together under a common system. And if we have to get past all these little petty things that we're doing and saying and stop this, the other side's evil. The other side is not evil. They see things differently.
Well, I mean, I want to point something obvious out that I would think would be blatantly obvious. Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, RFK, and many others were all Democrats up until very recently, and are now considered evil by the Democrat politicians. And anyone that leaves the Democrat Party becomes evil. And you're seeing a lot more of that, and really, and you can argue Trump, but Tulsi Gabbard, she's center. I was actually thinking of voting for her if the Democrat Party would have picked her in, I think, 2020.
Yeah.
It's RFK. He just wants to get the poison out of our food and our water and stuff. We can all get behind that. Tulsi Gabbard, she is a military officer, loves her country, loves the Constitution, loves the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. I would think we can all galvanize behind that. We need to stop with the division and allowing ourselves to be controlled emotionally by the left and the right. We need to judge people by their character, take a breath, and especially online, when you're talking with people online, really try to understand where they're coming from before you go on the offense. Yeah, I know it's hard sometimes. I'm terrible at it.
Well, and
as soon as somebody goes on the attack with me, I'm like, all right, we're going trolling.
Yeah. So kind of give a little bit of I'm not affiliated with either party. I'm nonpartisan. So like, that's kind of been my stance. I vote Democrat and Republican. I go back and forth. Mm-hmm. Usually in Texas, I vote. Over the years, I voted for a lot of Democrats because I like a balanced government. I think you get better, when you vote people out that have been in a long time. I like to see that kind of movement. But at saying all that, I'm going to be flat out honest. We have moved left as a society. We haven't been moving right. The left-wing part of our society has gone so far that it's that movement that needs to come back. And this comes from somebody that, was a little bit on the left side at one point. I've always been kind of in the middle. But the reality is there are crazy right-wingers, but crazy right-wingers are
so fringe. And it's such a minority of people that are truly extreme right.
But when you embrace ideologies that, say things like all white men are the problem, that racist rhetoric.
Yeah.
I mean, that's disgusting. It's horrific. And it should never be allowed into national conversations. But that's how far the left has gone in a lot of things, is saying things like that, where
all men are toxic, and
white men are toxic.
Well, and they've gone so far as to say that just all men are toxic.
Yeah. I mean, stuff like that is just reprehensible. And the Democrats, there's no repercussion on their side for talk like if anybody on the right says anything like that about any group,
we'd all gang up on them.
Oh yeah, we kick them out. Like, they get out. The Republican Party kicks them out, and they don't let them be a part of it. But it's not done on the left at all. And so, left, you need to rein yourselves in. Like, the people in power need to go. We're going to let those people go. Let them go form their own party.
They're hemorrhaging people. Yeah. I mean, I used to be considered left of center.
Yeah.
I want to, we can take better care of the environment. I want to help people, people that are down on their luck if they're homeless and, things like that. There's a lot of things that, I believe in that were considered left. I wanted smaller government. I wanted a more responsible government. I wanted less war, a smaller military and stuff like that, but that used to be a Democrat thing.
Yeah.
Now it's, they're wanting us to get involved in more wars. They're wanting us to have larger government. They're wanting Big Brother to have more power.
Yeah. It's weird because, my whole life it was the Democratic Party that was anti-war.
Yeah.
That was, now it's flipped, and it's so weird to experience it where, you have a Republican president, trying to end wars, and the left is accusing,
calling him a fascist.
Yeah, I know. And it's like so weird to be a part of this. It's like, what happened to the Democratic Party? It's like, this is crazy. And like, the whole reason. So I voted for Biden in the last election.
It was you.
It was me. Yeah. After watching the Ukraine war develop and go in and finding out that a peace deal at the very beginning was made, but the Biden administration tore it up, I felt an incredible amount of guilt for voting for him. Millions of Ukrainian men have died because of that presidency. I want you to realize that. I want you to, like, that kept me up at night, realizing I voted for somebody that, I mean, of course, Biden, he wasn't making any decisions, but his cronies that he had around him caused the death of millions of people. And I participated in that when I voted for him. I went all the way the other way and said, I don't personally like the way Trump behaves because I think it causes problems in our country. But I went and voted for Trump this time for that reason. I will never support warmongers. And the first time the honest thing was when I watched Trump in his first presidency, the reason I voted for Biden was the way he handled COVID. I thought it was a disaster.
Yeah.
But that being said, at the end of the day, I am not going to support a president that wants to get into wars.
Nope.
And so
we can't afford it.
And
checkbook we're out of checks.
Yeah, we can't afford it, but at the end of the day, it's just really horrific to watch. Now I understand wars might come our way because other nations want it, but I don't want it coming from my side.
Absolutely. So
now, what is it with this whole fascist thing that they keep? I think my camera crashed, so all I have is audio.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
You look at these people's actions. When has Elon done anything besides that arm gesture salute? When has he done anything that has been fascist or Nazi-like or anything? I mean, he's been building businesses for decades, and
it's a
Trump. What actions have they done?
Response.
Yeah, so you can say all this shit like he's this, he's that. Well, look at their actions. Yeah, Trump's a bully. He says a lot of stupid shit, but look at the actions he's doing or taking to, like, is that indicative of Nazi behavior, or is he trying to censor everybody that, because that's one of the first things the Nazis did was control the flow of information and censor people to make sure that shit wouldn't get out there. So, and that's exactly what the other side was talking about doing. So
that's what they were doing for 4 years under Biden. I mean,
but they don't see that as
Facebook, all the social media came out and said that they were being, strong armed into censoring, any right leaning content, any, influencers or anybody that, spoke about, talked about Hunter Biden's laptop or,
and
anything.
People on the left don't see that as a problem. Like my aunt and uncle, they're in their 70s, like you said, Taylor. People in their 70s that might be like more towards the government, and they're exactly that. They know that there's issues going on, but they see that Trump is more of a threat, and they don't see that the control of information in the previous administration was a problem like that. And it's what the fuck do you mean? That is dictatorship behavior. You can't deny that and just say, oh well, Trump bad. Like, oh my gosh.
But it's hard because when we're all in echo chambers, because one of the problems that like I have is, I live in Texas. I'm around mostly conservative people. So I get the conservative echo chambers. And so there's a lot of things that I have to find myself and catch myself on that. I'm like, oh, is that really true about what's going on? And catch and see. And now, it's hard because the left propaganda machine got really good because it controlled universities. So I went to college, I sat there and got all the liberal left leaning philosophies poured down my throat. And, as when I was going to college, and I believed in some of them and got sucked into them. And then, I used to be a watcher of mainstream media, and I would, go, yeah, okay. And then over the years, as I got older, I've started realizing a lot of my professors were full of shit and didn't know what they were talking about, and and things shifted for me in those ways. But COVID was really the moment where I was awakened to how much propaganda went through our news. I mean, I used to watch CNN. I wouldn't watch Fox News. And then going through COVID, I was like, these guys are fucking flat out lying.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
Like, I don't even watch Fox News anymore.
Well, yeah.
They're just bad.
Yeah, I don't watch any news organization now for that reason. I feel like it's propaganda, them trying to tell me how to think. And I have a hard time right now because I feel kind of like the social media algorithms that exist are to control how I think. So I try to stay away from political arguments. Like I'm like, okay, you have an opinion about that or whatever. I'm not really interested in it. Like, I'm interested in seeing how I can work with people and bring a society together. And that's one thing that you just have to do. You have to start turning off those voices and just go out and meet your neighbors.
Touch some grass.
Touch some grass.
Touch some grass and some ass.
And just make sure that ass is consensual.
I know that's what I'm doing when I get home. I'm gonna be touching some ass.
Yeah. But along those lines of like politics is like religion. Just always treat it that way.
Yeah.
It's their belief systems.
Politics is like religion. They both stink and they need to be changed often.
Yeah.
and try not to cause like losses in friendship or family unless it's super extreme. Like I saw Megyn Kelly a clip earlier today where she was saying she lost a few friendships recently due to politics, but it's because she comes at it from a place of love and understanding. But if that person is just so far in one direction and you can't really talk to them constructively, and it's like, okay, I don't need this in my life. And like, I love you, but we need to separate. And
Michael has a story about that.
What's that?
Oh, I guess we can't talk about it.
What's that?
Friends.
Which
friends that are extreme one way and causing fights.
Oh yeah. It's country drama, so I won't bring it up. Like some people that I know, there was an instance, an event, but
it's this idea. It's hard because I understand because I've seen it in my own. It's people want to believe that their religion or their politics is right and the other side is wrong, and the reality is
it's tribalism.
Yeah,
since the dawn of time, we've grouped ourselves into tribes, and it's us against them, and it's just that's the way the human mind works. And until we evolve to get past that, we're always going to put ourselves in groups.
Yeah, you just like. I just remember growing up in Texas, you did not talk about religion. You did not talk about politics.
Oh, I got set straight.
Yeah.
Our grandpa is like in his late 90s, and we went out to breakfast. We'll kind of like move towards ending on this. But I was sitting at the table, and him and my grandma sitting there, and our grandpa, he's kind of a flirt. He was flirting with the waitress, calling her beautiful and stuff like that. Not in a creepy way, just that old, that old school, hey, they're beautiful,
Yeah.
And, so yeah, we were talking to some people that were at an adjoining table, and I brought up just something very benign, but it was politics. And my grandma and grandpa looked at me just stone cold, and he's a joker. And so at first I thought he was joking, but he was just like, we don't talk politics at the table.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it reminded me, like back in our childhood, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's not something you do here.
Yeah, because it divides us too much. But like, yeah, enjoy your friends, your belief systems that you have, and how this country should be ran. And everything doesn't matter. What matters is like the behavior that you have, your intent in your life.
I'm actually going to close on this. This will be my closing statements. Then we'll go around the horn. Focus on the things that are in your sphere of influence. If you want a life hack, this is what I personally do. Take it or leave it. If something is in my sphere of influence, meaning that I have total control, 100% control over the outcome, I look at it through the lens of, does it need to, is there something that needs to be fixed or taken care of or not? If it does, and it's in my sphere of influence, I action it. If it's something that doesn't, then I don't. And if it's outside my sphere of influence, I put little to no effort into it because I have no influence on it. So it's wasted energy. It's an economy of movement. Focus on yourself. Be the change that you want others to be. Lead by example. Set the example for those around you. If you want to help the homeless, go volunteer. Just do things that you would hope other people would do, and eventually, the world will be a better place if everyone did more of that instead of always trying to get everyone else to live a certain way or think a certain way. It's an exercise in futility. Spend an hour on social media and you'll see it's true. You're not gonna convince anyone.
Yeah.
I enjoy trolling, so I get that's my guilty pleasure. But and on that, if I'll end on a crypto note. So the markets right now, dive a little deeper. I mean, we on the hour we have quite a bit of green going. Plume, Jeff over at the Blockchain Report initially turned me on to it. I know Deadwood jumped in it. It's up like 5% on the hour, and 5% on the 24-hour, and it's been pretty solid at 14 cents. I mean, it's dipped a little bit down to like 13 cents, but for the most part, since it launched, it's been in this range. It's been that's why I got in that liquidity pool on Uniswap. It's been ranging forever in the same tight range. Mm-hmm. There are projects out there, if you're paying attention, that are really good buys and that are really stable price wise. Taylor, closing statements.
Along the lines of your sphere of influence, the number one thing that you have influence over and will absolutely change your life is your thoughts. Get your thoughts under control. Like, what you think about becomes your reality. I cannot stress it more than anything else. If you have to just watch how much externally things do affect your thoughts. But if you will take the time every day to focus your thoughts, there's something about thoughts that create an energy. Watch it just, when you're depressed or sad, what am I thinking about? What am I focusing on? The crypto market. Exactly. Literally, I got an addict over here that's obsessed with it constantly. It's almost impossible to associate with them anymore.
Hey, if you want to know about crypto, just ask me. I'll tell you. The best, I'll ask if you don't ask.
The best was my wife. I walked in the house and like Mike had he went in the house like three minutes before me, and then I walk in and he is in like DeFi, blah blah blah. I'm like, my wife was just like I could tell the look on her face, like I have no idea what he said. And he went on a good 10 minutes just explaining how it all worked and everything. And we went back in the other room, and Julie was like, "What is he talking about?" I was like, "It's just an obsession."
He's like a heroin addict.
Exactly.
Just let him go.
He's like, it's like our kids right now are obsessed with Pokemon cards. They want to talk about it all day long. It's just like, when you deal with a man and he has an obsession, just let him go with
it. Just smile and nod.
Yeah, but the reality is, your thoughts, get them under control. Like, it will absolutely change your life, because that is what you absolutely can control. Can't control what happens outside of you a lot of times, but you can control you kind of can control what your thoughts are if you discipline yourself, but most people can't, because they think their thoughts are something outside of them and they just happen. It's like, get it under control and you'll watch your life change significantly.
Oh yeah, no, Stoicism, Book of the Five Rings. It's anything that you can learn to learn self-discipline. To really focus your thoughts and actions, to be very deliberate and unemotional. Because any decision that you make in an emotional state, 90% of the time is not going to end well. and it's not the best decision. Jeff, closing thoughts.
So being out here in California, it's super. I got a lot of friends who are pretty far left, and no matter how much evidence or whatever contradicting their narrative, they don't really believe it. But there have been quite a few of our friends over the past 3-4 years that I've been able to just talk to and break stuff down like at the most basic, simple level, and kind of walk them through why I think that there's a lot of issues like with the immigration, the stuff, the abortion laws, the everything, just kind of really breaking it down from a factual standpoint as opposed to a conspiracy theory, standpoint. And I've been able to really shift a lot of their perspectives and like, okay, why are we thinking like this? And it's really woken a lot of them up. But, I think, like you said, at this point, get your thoughts under control and then come at people with love and understanding and try and see where they're coming from and maybe kind of walk with them towards your point of view, if it, or more towards the middle, because we really don't want people at two extremes. We want to have some sort of middle ground with as many people as possible, because that's where we're really going to get the best collaboration. And
no, absolutely, build the foundation.
Not yelling and screaming ground. And saying I'm right and you're wrong and this is why, but say, hey, why do you think this is correct? When I know the whole men and women sports thing, but there are a lot of people that are saying, hey, this isn't right. We thought that it would be more inclusive, but it's not right. And it is more of a 90-10 issue that 10% are screaming about, oh, that we should allow this. But, more people are like asking questions, which is good. So it might take time, for people to wake up, like with COVID, it took people a few years. Oh shit, then maybe that wasn't the right way to do this or take the jab or whatever. So it'll take time for people to come around, but only if they're ready. And we have to really be, like with the Doge thing, more transparent about how they're releasing this information and what side is being targeted versus the other. And, we got to really look at the actions of these people and evaluate that. And instead of just saying, oh, well, they might be doing this, or projecting our thoughts of what they might do as opposed to what's already happening. And
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Bottom line is we need to heal as a nation, and, we need to find common ground. I'll give you all this one last nugget. Whenever you're in a discussion with somebody, especially in an opposing point of view, and I'm going to try to do this myself. I'm on a soapbox here. Try to find, before you get into the argument or the debate, try to find something that you agree on first, so that you at least have a basis to operate off of, and then expand the conversation to those more difficult, conversations. Because at least then you're coming from a place to where it's like, you know what? This isn't a terrible person I'm talking to. It's someone that, we agree on some things. We just don't agree on this. Or maybe we agree on the outcome, but not necessarily how to get there. So with that,
and Vance, real quick, Vance had the encounter with a group of protesters, I believe it was yesterday, and his 3-year-old daughter was with them, and they were heckling them. They were following Vance and his daughter, and Vance said, okay, if you give me like 5 minutes, I'll talk to you and you leave us alone. And they agreed. And they didn't, I saw a clip of it, but they were, the people had kind of a heated exchange, but it wasn't overwhelming. And it was very respectful, considering the situation that they were in. And, that you don't see that with a lot of political figures, especially the vice president. You're going to stop a crowd of people and say, hey, let me just talk to you like a normal person. And, please just leave us alone, but I'll give you a minute of my time. You're not going to see that from any political figure that wants to actually understand where the other side is coming from. So that's also another thing, yeah. But so you shouldn't be following people around like that. One thing.
No, absolutely. So I want to thank everyone for that showed up. You know, we definitely went long, but you know, Sack Nasty, IMJ, we got Sack Nasty stepmom was in here stuck in a dryer. The Deadwood, Chili Rainbow, DCA, and Prey. I appreciate you, brother. I really do. I appreciate the exchanges, the respectful exchanges that we have. You know, please, you know, it's, you know, come back. Maybe we can talk about having you on. I would love to hear your points of view, you know, other than just, you know, chats. You know, maybe we can arrange something, but, you know, reach out to me on X maybe. Who else we got that was in here? Man, we're starting to get quite the group of people in here. So if I forgot anybody, I apologize, but we got to get going. I'm starving. I haven't eaten all day. But until next time.
Gosh, it's 9, yeah.
Yeah, Veteran Crypto out.
Yeah.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
All right, in the string.